Hello, and welcome to Healthy Living Together. Today, our program is on container gardening, and we do our Healthy Livings every third Wednesday of the month. And our program in June will feature Officer Matt Jesequel on teenagers and vaping. And he is a very, very knowledgeable, informative speaker. To sign up for our Healthy Living Together, just register with Nina Barnett at 810-648-6117. And when you do register after the live virtual event, Nina will send out an email so you can connect and still see this on YouTube. We also invite you to use your question and answer function on your Zoom to submit your questions, because we have a most informative speaker today. In fact, my lifetime Master Gardener speaker is none other than Mary Martin from Decker, Michigan.
Welcome,
you,
Louise.
Mary.
Well, thank you for having me. I want to welcome everybody to the container garden class. What we're going to be talking about today is how to do a container garden and why to do a container garden. A lot of people nowadays either live in apartments, have a small area, or just don't have the time or the ability to do a container garden. So it's an easy way to still have vegetables to play with, and like I like to say, to play in the dirt, because everybody likes to play in the dirt. So this way it gives them a chance. Now, the only thing you got to think about when you're doing a container garden is how much sunlight does your area get? Because with a container garden, you want to make sure you get at least 6 hours of sunlight every day. So that doesn't mean I can't have a container and I might only get 3 hours over here and 4 hours over here. I can always opt for a container like this that I can move around. I can set it over here for the 3 hours and then move it over there where it needs more sunlight. So you want to think kind of portable, but yet big enough. So we'll start in with our containers. And as you can see, this one is one everybody has bought, like at the dollar stores. These are really nice buckets. They're good for weeds. They're good for everything. And you can make a container out of them. And what I've done is we've drilled a hole right in through the bottom, right here. And then that way we have the drainage. And then I have this pot that we're going to do up today. So with container garden, you want to think of your containers. And you can plant anything that will hold soil, but yet let the water out. So it has to hold soil, and you got to keep the moisture in the soil so the plants get the nutrients. So, and pots, you can get them any size, made out of anything. They can be plastic like this, or they can be cement. There is terracottas, there is wood, there's metal, all of them. So you can plant anything as long as you got holes in the bottom, at least one hole, so the water drains out and the soil stays in. So how do we keep the soil in? Because like this pot, you can see it's got several holes in it. What we do is you can do gravel, you can do a rock, you can do a broken pot that you already have at home. You can use that. But like this one where it has a couple holes, I'm going to use a plain old coffee filter. And it won't hurt if it's a used coffee filter or a new one. All we're going to do is set it in the bottom of the pot. See how nicely it fits? It covers all your holes. So it's going to keep, the water's going to go through it, but keep the soil in. So I do know that I did have a question earlier about terracotta pots. And there's some things you need to know if you're going to be using terracotta pots. Number one, you can paint them. But what you want to do is make sure you use a good outdoor paint, mainly because if you use just plain acrylic, it will bubble up and kind of peel after a while. And so you can use that, but you want to seal it, whether it be, I usually use outdoor decoupage because that works the best. So you can just, you just paint it up the way you want it, let it dry for a couple days, and then do a couple coats of the outdoor decoupage, and you should be good to go. But with terracotta, these don't wick water. Where a terracotta pot, they're made on a clay, so they're going to wick the moisture out of your soil. So what you want to make sure you do is while you're gathering all your supplies together, take that terracotta pot and stick it in a bucket of water and just leave it for a good 10 minutes. What it will do is it will soak up all the moisture it wants. And then that way you're good to go, that it's not going to draw all the moisture away from your plants. Now down the road, if we have a lot of really dry days, you might still run the chance that it's going to dry out, but you're just going to have to water more. So with that being said, we've got our pot ready. We've talked about our pots. Now comes the fun. We're going to talk about soil, because that's the next thing that's going to go in here. Don't go cheap with soil. You want to make sure you get a good quality soil. There's all different kinds out there on the market. There are some that are a little bit cheaper than the more expensive stuff. Everybody knows the stuff in the yellow bag. We're all used to that. But there are other ones, the store brand, that one kind of works too. I found that out, that there's a green bag that can be found at the box stores that will work. So with that, we're going to take our soil. Some of the soil comes, and I'm going to show you a little bit. This is what it looks like. And you'll see little white specks in here. That is what's called perlite. And that helps aerate your soil. And it's usually made out of like peat moss. And a lot of them will have, when you read on the packages, it will say that it has fertilizer in it. It does, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's got the right amount of fertilizer that you need. So you want to look at that. So I'm going to go back to where we did the pots. When you're doing a container garden, the one thing I forgot to tell you, size does matter. You're going to want a good size pot to pot up, because you want to make sure they have room. But a lot of people, another little shortcut, is want to get great big pots that are like this big around and about this tall. Those ones that you can't move around like you want to. You have to have special carts to put them on. The easiest way with those is to take like milk jugs, wash them out first, please, because they will stink. Wash them out good, let them dry, put the cap back on, and fill the bottom of that big pot with those. Because actually these plants right here only need 6 inches of soil to grow. It only has to be 6 inches deep. So I would take the big container, I would put the milk jugs down in the bottom, then I would take, like, it could be a plastic bag cut in half to fill that area so that moisture can still make it down, but it's not going to have the soil go down into the milk jugs, because your whole pot will sink. The whole insides where your plants are will just sink right down. So you want some type of barrier to keep that soil up where it needs to be and away from the plastic, so the water can still go down. A lot of times I have ground cloth is what it's called. You can get it at any store, and it's where the moisture will go through and the soil doesn't come through. After a while, the weed barrier, the weeds will still come through. So what we'll do now, so we've kind of talked about the soil. Some of the soils will also have what's called moisture crystals in it, or moisture plus, which are watering crystals. And what those are, it just so happens, I have some here in a container, and they look like little tiny pieces of gravel. That's all they look like. They're kind of white. But the magic of these, I'll hold it up a little bit higher. So there you can see the little white crystals there. And what you do is you can mix that into your soil. I'm gonna put it back in my jar for a minute. You mix them with, when you water in, they absorb all the water that's in there. This is a little hard to see, but it's a bag that looks like it's full of jelly. And what that is a scoop of these moisture crystals added with some water. And this is probably, I would say, a half a cup of water I used with some moisture crystals. And the magic of these are 3 years old. These are my demo crystals that I never have to do anything with. They're in a Ziploc bag. And every year I get them out to show everybody what it looks like. So once we get to our level where we want it to be, then we'll add some moisture crystals. And we want that at the root level so that when we water in, then the moisture crystals can puff up, hold that moisture, and then we don't have to water as much. Some plants might require more water than others. Tomatoes are one that really needs a lot of water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this container about halfway full, where I think my root balls are going to be, especially, and I'm going by the tomato plant first, because that's got the deepest roots. So that one will be our first one to go in.
Mary, we have one question coming in.
Yes.
When you're talking about fertilizers like you are, what about fertilizer sticks? That's the question.
Okay. My personal opinion is I don't like fertilizer stakes, and I will tell you why. I'm going to demonstrate with this little tag. When you had a fertilizer stake, it looks kind of like these. It's like this funny stick that you put in your pot. And they tell you to put them in so close to your plant and you push them in. And when you push those in, when you water, all of the fertilizer from that stake concentrates in that one area. So it doesn't disperse like what if you use slow release fertilizer crystals like these, and we are going to use some of those. They look like this, that you can see are little brown balls. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take a handful of these. I'm going to sprinkle them in right at the root area, because that's where we need them. I think I got a little too much. But when you're doing that, please read the instructions. Because each one of these packages will tell you how much for what size pot to use. Okay, so we're going to add our tomato plant. And when you're doing a container garden, you want to think about where you're going to put it. Oh, look at those roots. Ooh, I like to see nice roots like that. So when you're deciding where you're going to put it, if you were to put this container up against a wall, then you're going to put this back here and work around. If you're going to have it setting out, we're going to put it here in the very center and then work around. And what we're doing is we're creating, this is what's going to be called my thriller of my container garden. This and the alyssum are going to be what is considered, this is a sweet potato vine, and then some alyssum that look like this. These will be my spillers. So we're going to have a thriller, and then we're going to have a spiller because they go over the pot. And then the rest of them are going to be fillers, that they're going to fill those spots. And then your container will have a nice uniformity to it. So this one, I'm going to set back here. But what I'm going to do with this tomato plant is, and I do this with all my plants, I tickle its roots is what I call it. Because these roots, see how they go round and round? We want to make sure they don't do that. We want to make sure they go out. So we kind of tickle the roots. I'm going to place it right here. Excuse me, I'm wearing part of it. And then the other thing I'm going to do with this tomato plant And I might show you when I get up before I plant it. You're gonna see down here at the bottom, we've got this branch right here, and we have this little one coming up. I'm gonna pinch that middle one right off like that. And I'm only gonna leave this. So you're gonna keep doing that with your tomato plants as they grow. Because what you're doing is training it. It's gonna go up more and it's gonna fill out better and you'll have better tomatoes. So that's just a little secret that I've learned through the years. These can go in the compost bin, which is over there. So I got my tomato plant right where I want it. Now I'm gonna go from there. I think I better put a little soil around him because he wants to be fussy. And I don't like fussy plants. So I will put my tomato here. And then like the sweet potato vine, pop him out. Oh, look at his. He's got some nice roots too. But see, he's another one growing round and round in a square, not a circle. So I'm going to plant him like over on this side. So we have him in there, nice contrasting color. We have different textures. I like that too with the plants. So then I'm going to go with, since this is kind of a garden, a salad and flower one, I'm going to put in my green pepper. So I'm going to take my green pepper and set him over here beside the tomato because he will get rather tall too. This one will kind of go down a little bit. This one will go up. So then we have lettuce because you can't have salads without lettuce. And what I'm going to do with this, you can see little brown leaves here. I'm going to pick those off because I want to make sure that my lettuce stays healthy. Because after all, this is for healthy lifestyle. So I will put my lettuce basically probably right here. And I may stick 2 of those in there because you can never have too much lettuce. And look at this one's even got extras. And like if the leaves are bent down at all, I'm going to pinch those all off because that way it looks nicer and you'll have a healthier plant. So then I'm going to put lettuces there because they will get kind of tall. And then from there, let's see, my green pepper I'm going to stick over here because I also have parsley and he kind of sticks over and around. Now look at the roots on that one. That one is very healthy. This is the same way. I'm going to pick on all of those little brown leaves that are a little bit yellow because we don't want it looking bad. So we'll pinch these all the way down. And I'm going to place him back over here. So there. So everybody's kind of thinking right now, well, she's putting a lot of stuff in that pot. But you know what? It's okay because everybody will be happy together and they'll get along just fine. There'll be no fighting. I don't allow that in my containers. So we need a white alyssum and a purple one. And I'm going to stick a marigold in. And marigolds, you might want to know with marigolds, I'm going to stick him right up here. Maybe 2 of those. They will help control the pests that might get into your container garden. Because a lot of times you have bugs that like to get into things and they kind of, the smell of them kind of keeps that down. So then I'm going to just kind of fill as I go. And before I forget it, I want to take some of my moisture crystals because I don't want them on the same level as the fertilizer because I don't want these to soak up all the fertilizer. So I'm going to sprinkle in some moisture crystals around here. Now, the other thing I will tell you on these moisture crystals, don't spill them on a sidewalk without cleaning them up because you will go out and you will have slime balls all over your sidewalk if it rains. If they get, Louise is making faces at me right now. But if you have, say you do one and it starts to rain and you go, oh, I got to get in the house. I can't stand the rain. You run into the house, then you've got a problem that they turn into these slime things. You can't pick them up. You got to wait until it dries right out because you've got all of this slime formed. Don't ask me how I know it either. I couldn't be talking from experience at all. We all make a few mistakes in our lives, and that might have been one of them. So then I'm bringing these all up. Yes, Louise?
Yes, I have another incoming question,
Okay.
and that is, it's a two-part question. How many plants can you put in? And the more plants you put in, do you have to fertilize it more?
What we'll do with the fertilizer part, you can put in as many as you can fit in here. I have seen shows where they have crammed them in so close. And if you were to look at like a hanging basket that comes from the store, you know how beautiful it looks when you get it. There is at least 5 plants in one of those. So, I mean, no matter what size container it is, they will stick in to give it the wow factor. I have seen little tiny beds, containers that have had 10 to 12 plants in them that I go, ooh, how are they going to do that? But they do grow. They will share. They will get along. But the fertilizer, I would probably, because I spread some in here, usually it goes just by the pot size on how much fertilizer. And you've got a few in here. So you've got that. And then you've put in a little bit more. So you should be okay. The only thing different I'm going to do is come August. That's when tomatoes really start to throw the fruit. That's when the fruit starts forming and getting bigger. And come August, I'm going to fertilize again with the crystals, the fertilizer balls or whatever you want to call them. I will do that again just so it will produce hardier, better fruits. And yes, they're called fruit because they have seeds inside. So I will get some more soil around these. And we want to make sure when you're doing this that you don't want to really, really pack the soil, but you do want to kind of push it down around them to make sure there's no air pockets. But you don't want to do it too much because if you can pack the soil too much, they won't be happy. They'll say, what are you doing to me? So we'll just get it around there. I'll get a good amount. Come on, parsley, behave. So there we go around. So then I'm going to stick the alyssums up front. And with these, you notice what I do is I take them and I tear them kind of like in half, almost part way. And that's just so the roots, they're the same way. See, these are kind of root bound. That's why they kind of look a little dried out when they're not, because these are quite wet. And I'm going to set those up front is because these poor plants are just sitting there going, let me out. I need something bigger to grow in. So then we'll do this around here. We got this. Get that one back up there a little bit. And the only plants that don't like being in containers, as far as it goes with vegetables, is squash, pumpkins, cucumbers, anything like that. They will do okay, like in a square foot garden or anything like that, but they're kind of fussy. And they don't like to have, they just don't do well in containers. Now, tomato plants, another little secret I'll tell you. If by chance you get one, that sometimes we do, that are quite long and leggy. And you know what I mean about being leggy. See, like this one looks a little bit leggy, this green pepper. When you get a tomato plant that looks leggy like this, that one doesn't want to pop on. What you do if you're planting it out in your garden or in a container is you would take this, you would split it like that, lay it down on the soil, and then bring the very tip up like this and bury it. And this right here, the tomato plant will grow nice and hardy right there. And you might even get a baby or two. So that's what you do with those. So we need a few pansies, don't we? So let's just do a couple pansies in there, because we need a little bit more color. Wow. So what I would do, take a bowl, stick our pansy in for a little bit more color. I think I will go right here. You can tell I watered those pansies or all the plants before I came today. Now, the next thing I'll tell you is, I know we've had nice weather, but we still have a chance of frost up through the first part of June. So you want to make sure, if you have a large container, that you're going to either, two options, take it in where it's protected so it doesn't get frost, because these will not survive. So you can either take it indoors, or you can take a sheet and put over it. And don't use plastic. One of the things about plastic, you know, some people think, well, I'll put a plastic bag over, it'd be like a greenhouse. There's something about the moisture from the plastic that it will frost easier than if it's a sheet. And I think what it is because the sheet would breathe where the plastic doesn't breathe. So there we go. We have these plants in, so this will look wonderful. When it all starts growing, everybody will get along. And then the other thing I do when I do a container, just like if I'm doing a garden, which up at the library, we take care of the gardens there, my husband and I'm going to mulch. And I'm sure some of you are going, mulch? Why would you mulch a container? You mulch a container to hold the moisture in. It kind of helps, especially during the summer heat. So what I do is, and mulch can be anything. It can be regular mulch that you're using in your yard. Or it can be, I had these pretty little white stones left over from something I was doing. So I'm using those. And all I do is I go through, kind of go around the plants. This will help the moisture stay in on the hot days. So we'll just go around, mulch around everything. I'm having a fight with that bag. And then this, we're gonna keep it watered. This will probably require water, probably at least once a day, if not twice a day. On a really hot day, it could be twice a day that we would need to water. Now, when you're watering, one of the suggestions I have is we've given it fertilizer, but we need to give it food also. Just like we like food, plants like food. So what I would do is once a week, I would take a gallon For this one, well, all my plants, I just take a gallon of water and I add a little bit of plant food in there. Look at that. Magically, they disappear. So once a week I would take and I would follow the directions on the bag. I just spilled some on the floor. Okay, we're at the cleanup crew too. Follow the directions on the box. It will tell you, of course, I got to find it first. It will tell you how much per gallon. Usually it's a little scoop per gallon. So once a week, I would take that, the plant food, and water it in, which is different than the fertilizer, because the fertilizer is good for 3 months, except until August. And then I will fertilize again for this one. And I will probably just put the fertilizer back here by the tomato plant and not worry about the rest, unless the rest look like they're needing a little bit of fertilizer. So have we got enough mulch? We need a few more around here. So do we have any other questions that's looming on your mind?
Mary, can you tell us anything we could do in the winter if we wanted to keep our green thumb going?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, you can actually start some of your plants outside. You can start them inside or you can start them outside. And the ones outside, it requires like the McDonald's clear cups that are out there that they're doing right now, that you can save those and you can plant those up. And you plant them up and you put them outside in a protected area. You got to put them in a place where your pets aren't going to get into them. Because trust me, I did a whole batch of them and it's called Sowing Seeds in a Snowbank. And we did milk jugs, those, the lighter ones, the older ones. Now they've got more heavy duty white plastic. Those will not work. It's got to be the ones you can kind of see through. Water jugs, like a gallon jug of water. Those ones will work. And you make little greenhouses out of those and you can plant seeds of perennials in them in January. The vegetables and stuff would be probably February, March. You can start them up until it's, well, even now with today being a cool day, you could start some of them. It's a little too late to put them in the garden. So, but up through like April, 1st of April, because they have to grow for about 6 weeks for them to be ready to go in the garden. And what you get is when those seeds are ready, when you plant them up, you water them in just like what you would any other plant. When you water them in, then you take them outside and put them in a protected area outside where it's going to get the snow. You know, I've seen them done where they were covered with a foot of snow and the plants did fine. When the seeds are ready, they come up, they germinate themselves. So it makes it easier when you have a small space like we do at our house for growing plants.
We're hoping, Mary, that we can have you back next winter, maybe February 2023, and tell us about sowing seeds in a snowbank.
So I look forward to doing it. I would enjoy that. So if we got any other questions looming out there, it can be about any flower that we might be able to answer. So if not, I want to thank Louise for having me. Remember, you can grow a beautiful container, you know, and this one, you know, you can get your own plants from the greenhouse, do your own, do up your own pots, get the good soil, big pots, enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And we appreciate your spouse and partner Lou helping you out as well.
He's my partner in
you.
crime. He's the one that hauls the stuff.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.